In the darkness, Amnok shines, his feet guided by something beyond himself. He stops in the center of the dark great room near the near lifeless body of a young girl. He unhooks his battle hammer from his belt. Kneeling down, Amnok places the haft on the ground, then his forehead on top of the cold iron, and begins to pray. To the Lord of Morning, the eerie luminescence of 100 crawlers, I stare from the darkness of the hunched figure, my protector and shield. Fearfully they encroach, moving ever slowly toward their target. Guide my hands and focus my thoughts. The solitary figure surrounded by an army of skittering arachnids begin to rise. All that I am I give over to your glory. Suddenly and completely a mass of mandibles, whole and hissing, giving way and surges towards Amnok, a wave of black death. Driven by an unknown evil, they crawl onto and over each other, extinguishing the one who dares bring light into the dark. Within the swell, like a candle in a cave, he begins to shine, his light absolute and all the greater because of the surrounding shadow. You have brought me here, an aimed avatar of vengeance and light. At this time, again and again, his hammer finds home for this purpose, crushing Chitin and Carapace. The victory is yours. Fear ripples through the enemy as they begin to realize this is no mere traveler, but one sent from the above to speed them toward their destruction. Strange and holy words erupt from Amnok, accompanied by flashes of light and absolute devastation. Too late, they listen to the instinct to flee. There is no escape or refuge from his righteous, fiery, cleansing fire. I am your servant. Amnok returns, wading through an ocean of carcasses, covered in grime and ash, to the little girl dying in the center of the room. He places one hand on her head and lifts his other to the heaven. Your will be done. A woman, not frail but fit, stands before a foreboding cave carved from rock and stone. Bone and boulders are strewn all around the entrance. Burned flesh and the howl of an unnatural wind belly the beautiful day. Bright sun hanging in blue sky, her dark countenance would make the very rocks flee if they weren't anchored by the ancient promises. Usurpers. Her voice crackles with power, splitting the crisp clean air, echoing through the cave and into the ears of Aethi, who hear Trish's crystal clear commands. She continues, I hold thee in disdain, for you have encroached on that which is mine. I call you forth to face judgment, your fate chosen by the cosmos before time immemorial. I call thee craven, now crawl to me. And so the elementals come. Not willing are they driven from the depths, somehow sure of a secret knowledge that this will be the last time they pass that way. So stand they, towering over their tormentor, unable to extricate themselves from her control. They wait. They are ancient beings before the imagination of most, yet the one before them is more than a woman. Something greater, a strange mystery they need to see. The wait is not long. The roar of thunder from an open sky, rolling with furry signals the beginning. The chorus of doom is suddenly split by the soul-splittering screech of elementals. Their anima returning. Not too late. This is earliest of evil finds their fight. They will not fade or falter, but fight fiercely, hoping for fate's fortune. Foolishness. Trish raises one hand, and the craven are cast into chaos. All at once, lightning arches from her fingers, crashing into the nearest creature directed to her neighbor. Then another. Only mist remains, Aethi sundered, scattered like dust amid the wind. Trish is an avatar of an older power, a conduit of creation, channeling the power of 1,000 suns. Power immeasurable. White light radiates from her eyes. She need only reach out to break the world. So she does. Geysers of earth erupt beneath those remaining, flinging the fell creatures from her sight, soaring off the mountain to dreadful destiny. The rest, those elementals that remain, are lost in the rivers of molten rock, flowing through a rift in the earth, turning flesh and bone to liquid. Finally, Trish's power abates. Stoic she stands, the power in her eyes still smoldering, surveying the devastation. Satisfied, she vanishes. With the late hour, just a few stragglers remain, sitting around the table, either conversing quietly or snoring softly. It had been a busy evening, and she'd made enough coin or more than pay her room and board. She stretches her hands, joints popping, stiff from long playing. Almost time for supper and sleep. With a nod from the innkeep, she decides to finish one last song before retiring. The darkness made flesh. As she starts to play, the door opens and the knight enters. Man-shaped but wrong noted, 3 riders take stock of the room. Instantly, the room grows discordant, sharp, cold thread muting the bright warmth of the hearth fire. Though her heart skips a beat, Lily plays on. Their refrain is a familiar one. Sing only pray, the riders don't hesitate. The first grabs the serving boy as he passes, claiming the mug on his tray with one hand and roughly shoving the boy to the ground with the other. Lily takes in their measure, ready to play for more than her supper. She looks over her orchestra, serving boy gathering his feet under him, nursing his shoulder, innkeep coming around her bar, Outridge replacing the sensible caution, old soldier, his cane held tight in his grizzled grip, wishing for steel and the strength to wield it. Even the lovers, secreted in the corner, eyes only for one another, now realizing the darkness stands among them. The heroes, their blades burning bright. Her song swells, willing the patrons to meet the challenge, knowing they must all rise or die. The innkeep moves swiftly, hits the first rider low and hard. The lovers toss empty mugs and neglected bottles from nearby tables, the barrage surprising the riders. Thus distracted, they do not notice the fighter. Buoyed by the song, his cane no longer needed, but instead raised as a weapon, he brings it down on the first rider's head with a sharp crack, remembered strength, delivering a killing blow. In doubt languishing and leaderless, fear creeps into the other 2 riders. Fed by Lily's song, she pushes the song at them, her fingers straining to weave their surprise into fear. One backs up as if makes it to the door and finds his feet swept from under him. The serving boy struck now straddles the enemy. Without hesitation, he brings the heavy wooden tray down on the rider's throat again and again until his foe struggles no more. The heroes, terrible as the dawn, utter their deaths decided. The final rider seems shaken but resolute. Lily's song peals at him, but doesn't reach his core. He is strong. She switches, refrains, filling the heroes of happenstance with her melody, replete with the terrible righteous anger they conveyed on the rider. He makes a half-hearted swipe, but they outnumber him. He meets her eyes across the room and understands, finally, what has happened. Too late, as the heroes swarm him, rending flesh and breaking bones. On that day, the darkness defeated, a dirge unsung. The riders down, Lily changes her song. The bloodlust leaves the patrons, and only pride in its place. They have defended their hearth. The darkness will not hold sway here. At last, for one more day. They look at each other in wonderment. The warrior collects his cane, kneaded once again. The lovers exchange looks as only lovers can. The innkeep nods to the serving boy, who stands a little taller. Lily puts down her instrument, the suddenness of its lost song a hot ache. The innkeep nods at her, understanding at least a little, as she collects the coins from her case, puts her instrument away, and stretches out the aches in her hands. She glances at the still bodies, their wrongness now silent. If the darkness has touched even such as these, it is time to move on. Her skills are needed elsewhere. The blow rattles off the banded iron of his buckler. Taking the energy from the strike, Arthur spins to his right, swinging his longsword low, hacking off the grubber's leg below the knee. Continuing his momentum, Arthur angles the sword in an upward arc, burying it deep in the flank of the mucker. The ground below Arthur's feet begins to soften from the body's and blood saturation. Raising his boot to the mucker's belly, he pulls his weapon loose and then turns to face his next foe. No solitary figure splits the dawn, but seemingly endlessly, stream of grubbers shuffle from their lair with sinister intent. He can see a second thoughts pass over their faces as he slowly begins to advance. Banging sword on the shield, Arthur can feel his ire rise from within, a rage so powerful, surely it will consume him with bloodlust. He cracks a small smile as the grubbers trip over themselves, backing away from his terrible visage. Arthur is something more. They should not have come. Like a flash of lightning, with the force of thunder, Arthur charges into the mass of minions, splittering their morale. Those that aren't felled by the shining Arthur's sword, bright as the day, are trampled by the terror-struck horde in full flight. They flee from war-possessed fighter, wielding fury and judgment, cleaving a wide wrath through the frightened foe. Arthur's rage surges uncontrollably. He finds himself overcome, lost in the slaughter, helpless in the wrath. Billowing battle roars, I have become death, and the darkness will flee from me. Far afield they have emerged. For fury they have come, still distant, but following, fast drawn to Lance. Forever it seems he has killed a Skylin, a bane to their kind. He strolls forward against the current, a raging river of revenge. Cocksure, he clutches his bow, a hidden smile beneath his cowl. For on this day he knows the loss of life will be great and the Skylin fewer. Fell creatures cry aloud, roar and run, trying to rip through Lance's quiet calm, his confidence a terrible taunt to those who feed upon fear. Slow and measured, he reaches back to pluck forth an arrow of yellow pine used for a specific purpose. Lance knows its measure. Stiff shaft and colorful fletching, light in hand, it rests on the bowstring less than an instant before it is sent flying. The arc of this arrow, a secret to all but one. The Skylin flinch, take pause, and track the flight, distracted by the failed attempt. Late is the moment they realize its true function. Effortless, Lance tumbles forward, the foolhardy forerunner, reckless and rash, going before the host, an easy target. The first to fall, a blur of cedar, and white fletching flies true, through throat, shot from bended knee. The next 3 arrows, ash and raven fear, are drawn and driven before Lance has risen to stand. The tears of Orion fall into the irises of fools who dare draw the ire of the indignation of Lance, who has become one with the arrow. 2 score times, over and again, Arrows fly from quiver or are retrieved while walking. The same movement burned into muscle. Memorize until only the motion remains. The many give way to the fling. Few save one captain who continues to charge with confidence. Closing quickly, Lance stops, brazen and bold, flings back his hood. Slowly he draws forth a solitary shaft, saved for one such as this. Hallowed bone, with clean bright brown fletching, with drawn breath, it is set against the string. His blackwood bow, fully bent. He doesn't even realize the arrow is gone until it is buried deep into the Fane's heart. Stopped and staggered, the massive monster slumps, clutching his chest. It takes but a moment for the blood to begin to flow through the shaft. Death quickly takes the one not long for life.